Does that mean rolling? We should probably shut that door.
Because I prepared for 2
It's fine.
Yes.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Everything's
fine.
Everything's fine
fine.
because, you know, it's fine.
Everything's fine, Ellie. But let's go back to what we were talking about before
I don't know what you're
we were
talking
on the air.
Oh, that was good.
The tattoos.
Jim? Nope. Jim?
No. I was excited about this Yeti. I've never had one. And it's amazing. It keeps things cold. And the things you want cold.
Right.
And then it keeps things hot.
And I said...
That's a doggone anomaly.
And I said, how does it know what to do?
Right. And I
Being
thought it had,
facetious.
Right.
And Ellie said, whoa,
I said
whoa,
nothing.
save that for when we're on the air. And I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, well, how does it know?
Right.
And I was like, well,
How does it know?
it insulates whatever temperature is in the air.
It's not really making things cold or
I
making
thought there were
things
little
hot.
creatures
It's
that
actually-
lived within
My
the
grandpa
walls
always said that
you know,
about a cooler. He'd be like, how does it know?
How does it know? I thought it was the Great Yeti.
And then
in
when
the
I was
sky.
when
I
I was
did
real
too.
little, I was like, how does it know? But then I grew up and I'm nosing.
grew up, and now you're ancient.
Product placement, is that good?
Not as old as you.
Got the sticker
I
right
never
there.
will be as old as you.
I think you
unless
lied on your birth certificate because you're a baseball player. Not that anyone does that, but
You're talking the Danny Almonte thing that happened in Little League.
I don't know.
You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Like you lied?
He was like a
World Series.
14-year-old thrown in the Little League World Series,
It
throwing
was
like just
Oh,
mowing
wow.
kids down
Yeah.
from Cuba or Puerto Rico or something.
So you think
Wow.
When I was
Froning's
a kid.
really like 40? He just lied on the birth certificate so he could play. Wait, no, that didn't work. It's
Yeah,
the other
that-
way.
yeah,
Sorry.
that would
Yeah.
be
Once again, you screwed it up.
I didn't screw it up. So, would you ever, because Jim is doing this
Get a
next
low
week.
back tattoo? No.
No. Okay, yeah. Would you get a, you know what, Stan?
I was joking about getting a mayhem tattoo. I'm not getting
so
a mayhem
would
tattoo.
you get a Jim, not a silver
A Jim?
tattoo? Not
A CrossFit Mayhem
not-
tattoo?
Yeah, like how avid of a fan of the gym,
I mean, I
gym.
own the gym, so it would probably make a little bit more sense that
Right.
I did it, but
so
it's
where?
still...
Right on your neck, maybe?
Yeah, a neck
Neck
tattoo.
tattoo.
Neck tattoo with no
Right
regrets.
here.
There
no
are-
regrets.
There are 16 of these Strength and Honor tattoos.
16?
16
See,
out
but
there.
that's huge. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like the people that I worked with.
Well, explain that really quick because that's pretty cool.
Well, it's about writing your own code.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of wanting to do kind of their own graphics, they liked this and they built on it.
That's
It
awesome.
represents the Strength and Honor code was my code that I wrote back in the day.
I'd like to get a sleeve, but Hillary's not crazy about it.
What would you put in your sleeve?
Oh,
I don't know.
this is awesome. We can do this. Hey, I'm looking for a good tattoo artist.
There you go. Jim,
Silver's
Jim,
Day has
put
been
it out
made.
there.
I got totally...
what do you want to do, a sleeve?
I absolutely... So
He
I've got
already
it
has a
already...
design.
I've already got it
Oh,
designed.
nice.
Well, I have the idea. It's not designed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Knight facing a dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Dragon's the adversity. Dragon comes back around over my arm. Somebody.
Anybody.
Anybody who's good.
yeah.
That's awesome.
I had a guy I thought in Nashville could do it, and he was like, that's not my thing. I'm like, what's not your thing?
That's
like,
art. I feel like you have to
tattoos,
be
bro.
picky.
Yeah.
So what would yours be? Because, I mean,
I don't know. I mean, fire department stuff would be on there. Maybe an axe
That'd
or
be
like
cool.
a Maltese. I do have a Maltese cross on my tricep. Got back on the fire department. Well, volunteer fire department recently.
yeah.
Haven't been to a call yet because I don't have a pager yet. But I
When
do
do
have
you
my
get your
gear.
pager?
Hopefully in a couple weeks.
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Did my 16-hour refresher class.
Can
That
you
was
not
like
get lit
pulling
on
teeth.
fire before the CrossFit Games?
I will do my best
Or at
never
any
to get
time,
lit on
really.
fire, actually.
But I've seen you fight a fire, so I know you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I've fought a couple.
That was actually pretty crazy. When the yard did catch on fire, like, it was like what you would imagine, like, oh, it's like riding a bike. He was grabbing, like, the fire truck pulls
Yeah.
it. I don't even know if he asked. Just grabbed it and was like,
Pulling hose.
it was crazy. It was
like
impressive.
fire
I was
Things you don't
impressed.
forget. It's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that
Put
doesn't
the
look
wet
easy.
stuff on the red stuff.
Do you remember what I did?
I ran around with like a chicken. Oh yeah, she pulled out the garden hose,
Right.
basically, and just sat there by the barn, like.
No, I was
Protecting.
I was protecting the house.
Oh
Protecting
yeah,
the
but
house.
you probably could have. The fire wasn't that crazy. It
serious.
would have been big, but if you would have got over here, you probably could have kept it at bay with a garden hose.
Right.
You think? I don't think
Yeah,
so.
you could have with a long enough garden hose. But the fact that you were trying to protect the house with the hose that was by the barn and it only stretched about 50 feet,
Yeah, like-
you could have protected the barn. Maybe not. There was technically a fire break
Right.
between the
This was the
driveway, but
Right.
yeah.
Like, it's important to know that you probably better set that up because people be like, fire, what happened?
Oh yeah, I
yeah.
caught my field on fire. There's a whole Instagram
Yeah.
talk about it. But we had a $500. You could buy a car.
This was fun.
You couldn't
This was
make any
cool.
modifications to your car other than getting it running. And
Right.
then we had a little racetrack that we set up in the field. I bought a car, filled it up with fuel, of course, and drove out in the field. There was a bunch of sage grass. Was pulling the e-brake, and I think either the rotors caught on fire or the catalytic converter, and the whole field went up in flames because the sage grass caught, and my car caught
went
on
up in
fire.
flames.
Boom.
And
There were some
me
booms.
and Darren were not doing anything whatsoever. We were trying to put it out with shovels, and if it wasn't so windy, I think we could have contained it, but
Right.
it was windy, and so we had to call
So
the Putnam County Fire Department.
there's like a little hill from the barn, and the girls are decided that we were just going to tan and like do some light stuff while the boys were like setting things on fire or whatever. So Rich disappears into the distance in this car, and all of a sudden you see him running across the field, and we're like, that's odd. Why is he running, and why didn't he invite us? And then you see the cloud.
why
You're
didn't
like,
he
If I'm
invite us?
running,
and
you
then-
know something's wrong.
Yeah, so then we all panicked, and we're like, do we run? Like, what do we do? And we're like, Rich.
So the fire got put out, but then the race went on
The race went on.
around your
The
burnt
fire-
to the
my
crisp
burnt
car.
Yep.
It was
a good
really
time.
fun.
It was a blast.
That
We'll
was
do it again.
probably some of the most fun of all time
Oh,
ever,
yeah.
actually.
Yeah, it was a great time.
I've never seen like grown men so happy.
How did you come up with that idea?
We actually, a friend of a friend, a couple years ago, he owned a junkyard, or owns a junkyard. And so on Labor Day, what he'll do is throughout the year, he'll take cars that they're either going to crush, but they still run, and he'll take them and just put them out in his field. And then on Labor Day, he has a bunch of family over, and they race the cars. Well, one of the Labor Days, we went out there with him. It was awesome. It was so much fun. So
That sounds
that's where we
like
got the idea.
Your dad's car's right out here.
Still out there.
Sitting right out here ready to go.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's got
gosh.
the 3 on it. 3 for Dale.
Does that thing?
Kick the tires, light the fires.
Does that run? Why are you still letting that?
It still
tan
runs,
by the
and
garden.
Dad wants to keep it for next time, but I think the transmission's pretty much shot in the thing.
The little trucks were the best.
The trucks were the
little
best.
trucks,
Man,
couple
if
of
you
guys
get a
had
manual
trucks.
rear-wheel drive truck, rear-wheel
Yeah.
drive's a little bit more fun. Front-wheel drive would go a little bit faster.
Yeah.
You could like cut corners a little, not
Your,
cut corners.
your
but-
hubby's big old monster boat was pretty cool though, because
Until
that
we
thing was
took
just
the-
floating
When
around
we
the
took-
corner.
When we took the
was so
muffler
slow.
off of it, it quit. But I mean, he was plowing literally the whole time, plowing with the muffler in the
right.
ground. Once they cut
What
the muffler
was that?
off,
Like
it was
a-
a
I
Crown
don't
Vic.
know.
Crown Vic.
Yeah,
Like
Old,
a 70s
No,
something.
it was like 90s.
Was it
Yeah, it
90s?
was like early 90s.
Oh god.
Things just floating around the corners.
Who wants to be lapped though? The
Yeah.
other cars are just like.
Actually, it was probably like a late 90s Crown Vic.
Was it?
Yeah.
That was funny.
It was a
That
big
was-
old car, and because it has air ride suspension,
Yeah.
the airbags were gone out of the back thing,
Right.
so it just. But it was fun.
That was a good day.
Oh.
That was good times.
It was great.
That's awesome. So I was listening to this podcast this morning that I thought was pretty cool, and it's this guy. What is his name? James Lawrence. So he did. He just came out with a book, 50 Ironman triathlons in 50 states
In 50
Oh,
in
days.
50
wow.
days.
Yeah, that's the Iron Cowboy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard of this.
that's insane.
yeah,
But
that's
I mean,
nuts.
I just
He said
don't
he fell
even.
asleep on his bike. He fell asleep on his bike and almost died.
Wow.
Although that's not as hard as you think when you have aero bars. One of my best friends from home, Leanne, we used to like ride bikes before school sometimes. And she came to school and she was like all cut up and scratched. I go, Leanne, what the heck happened to you? And she goes, I fell asleep on my bike. And I was
What?
like, so she's in the aero
How do you
bars.
do that?
It's like 5:15 in the morning. We're all nuts. Like the endurance athletes are just nuts. So she's on the bars and there's this little spot in Cocoa Beach where like there's a steep drop off the sidewalk. And she said for a split second she fell asleep and she woke up and the bike was tumbling.
Wow.
So yeah, that happens. But anyway, if an Ironman takes what 12 to 16 hours, how are you sleeping and or like how is that even
And
feasible?
traveling.
That's what I couldn't because he went to Hawaii and Alaska too.
Yeah, how does that work? How do you get? And it was in different states, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so how do you?
Shirley, don't call me Shirley. He had to travel to some of them via RV. I would guess.
Right.
So you could.
I don't even
sleep
really
and
believe
have
that
somebody else
happened.
drive.
Did that really happen? That's not. That's a thing,
No,
right? It
what?
really happened. The
That-
dude really
yes.
did this.
Well, he had a full team. So there's this thing out. We should
Captain.
watch it. It's on
Netflix.
yeah, it's free
Wow.
or no, Amazon Prime, and it's called the 50 something.
Wow.
But he had a camera crew and he had 2 wingmen, he called them, who were with him at all times and drove through the night. And he said the first 5 days were the worst because he only got 4 hours of sleep.
Wow.
And I'm just thinking, even at the slowest pace, think of like rowing on a day where you were just smashed. Even at your slowest row or slowest swim, I don't know that, anyway, but
Because it's 2.4 miles, right?
2.4 mile swim.
112 mile bike, 120, 124.
Well, what's half is? Gosh, I've only done this a million times. 144, yeah.
144,
No.
124.
112.
112. And then a marathon.
Yeah.
I could do a marathon, 50 marathons in 50
Yeah,
days.
and that
That's
was
awesome.
crazy. But,
Wow.
So anyway,
How did he
legit.
look from the beginning? How old did he look like he aged in 50 days?
we got to watch it. I bet it's pretty cool. But here's the thing that I thought was fascinating, and I thought that kind of paralleled to what we're doing, and I wanted to see what you guys thought about it. And he said his body, once he hit 30 days, he actually started getting faster in his races.
Jeez.
And he said, my body was forced into
To survive.
4-hour recoveries.
Yeah,
and he
to
goes, I
survive.
literally woke up craving doing Ironmans. And
Wow.
so the whole point I'm making is,
I don't think I'd ever wake up craving an Iron Man.
yeah, for sure, is adaptation.
I've tried to drink kombucha for like 2 weeks, and you're like, oh, yeah, you'll crave it. No,
No, I said that about super greens, and you know you love super greens.
No, I have not taken super greens in a couple of months.
Your poor gut. Your gut is so angry.
Actually, my gut is better than your gut.
It's not.
According
Says
to the
who?
tests.
No.
Oh,
Dr.
'cause
Goddard?
You've
He didn't
actually
say.
had tests.
I never heard him say that. I think
He
you're just
said
saying
your gut
that.
was pretty messed up.
No, and it is not.
Quote, pretty messed up.
That's not true. I don't.
And
think
when he
did
said
it.
pretty, he didn't mean cute. He meant
Aw, I think
like
my gut's
substantially. And you're the organic.
just fine.
Like,
I need
do
some
it all right. How is
prebiotics,
your
because
gut
I think I've
messed
been
up?
overdoing the probiotics.
So now you need some
I didn't-
conbiotics?
Yeah, I did. Nice.
See what I did there?
I got it.
I need the foundation, so I need the pre. But anyway, to the adaptation.
Me?
You right there epitomize forced adaptation. Because
it happened today in the workout.
yeah,
We have video proof.
true. But I'm just saying, like, there are weeks that we go through and get so beat up and it hurts so bad, and you're like, this
last
is
2
not,
weeks? Yep.
Yeah, this is not sustainable. But then the next week comes and you do the same amount of work and you're like, I feel pretty good today.
Uh-huh.
It's unbelievable.
Uh-huh.
How did you
The
figure out?
overload principle.
No, but come on, like, there are people that. So and
Was it
okay,
Milo with his cow?
cow.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're right. You can explain that if you want to.
The guy just carried his cow up the hill, or calf up the hill, and every day it got bigger, and every day he got stronger.
That's pretty cool. Good job, Milo. But what the Iron Cowboy was saying is that most people quit
That's a
before
cool
they're.
nickname.
The Iron Cowboy.
I know.
That is good.
You really think Iron Crotch? Riding a bike that long?
Yeah, he's probably not
Iron
the same.
Cowboy.
Iron Cowboy.
I like it. What's up, cowboy?
What was I
Iron
just?
Cowboy's a
good
And
nickname.
I just lost my train of
Sorry.
thought.
Adaptation.
Adaptation.
Annexation of Puerto Rico.
No, I can't remember. It was something about the Iron Cowboy.
30 days, he got faster.
Yeah.
What
but
do you think about
I don't know.
Milo?
I don't
Me?
know. You took it. Oh, how did you figure out how much? Like, you pushed the limits of.
You want to know how it
Volume.
happened?
Yes.
Me and Darren got our level 1s. I got mine in June of 2009. Darren moved down July 1st of that year. And we were like, all right, we're going to just do CrossFit because both of us really liked working out. But we did, chest and back and legs once a week and that type of deal. But we worked out a lot. So one day, we'd do these really long warm-ups, kind of like skill-type warm-ups with a bunch of reps in them. And then we'd do a CrossFit. We'd just follow CrossFit.com, or we'd make up our own stuff. And one day we did a workout, and we watched a video, and we were like, what happens if we try 2 workouts today? I think we'll die. And we did a second workout, and we were like,
I think we'll die.
I'm still alive. Because, CrossFit at that time was like, 1 workout a day. You got to, and for the general population and, to maintain fitness and intensity and wellness and all that stuff, one workout a day is plenty. But at that time, even athletes were like, once a day. And so I'm kind of thinking, well, let's see what happens to do 2 days. So we started doing 2 a days, and then we were at the gym, so we started doing 3 days, and we were at the gym, so we worked out all day, and that's just kind of where we are.
But do you have short-term memory loss? Because when the one day we did like 20-something.
I don't remember what I had for
pegboards.
breakfast
Right.
this morning.
But like the next day, I'm like, I'm never doing 20 pegboards again. I can't move my raptor arms. But then you just obviously, if you do them again, then it's easier. But you just forgot what pain was of that period of your life and just kept doing more
Either that or
workouts.
I'm not real smart.
Yeah, I mean, that's in your design, though.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people that like to move. Like, I never thought of those things.
Yeah, but he's got to. You've been training. You've been eating right. You've been doing all those things over time, and you've built to that. Plus, there's some genetics involved.
Yeah, genetics are...
You have a unique ability to recover. It is something that's
So let me ask you this.
Okay.
Because then immediately I was like, ooh, case studied, but not really. So post-knee surgery, did you feel like you had to readapt? I mean, the answer seems obvious, but like coming from the amount of volume that we do and you do even, more sometimes it's a ton from the squatting, from like you took a couple days off. Did you feel substantially different in your adaptation, or your body just was fine through the couple weeks that because we had a couple months that were substantially
knee stuff?
Yeah.
I feel like up until the last probably month or so, my knee's been terrible. I started, the stem cell definitely helped kind of sure it up. And then I've been doing the lubricant injection, 2 parts, and it feels 100% right now.
I mean, the rest of like your entire fitness level, how much rest did you take after your surgery? Not much.
Hillary doesn't listen to these. One day?
Yeah, you didn't.
I took one day of absolutely not doing anything for one day. And then the next day I had to do something. And so I went downstairs, did some skiing while sitting.
Yeah. You were smart about it,
Yeah,
though.
I was super smart about it.
I'm saying for like 3 months, you and Silver we were just doing
squat,
like easy
I couldn't do
stuff.
anything. Yeah.
But it was nothing like what we do now. So I'm saying, did you hit any walls coming back to training? Do you feel like you had to readapt in any capacity after surgery?
I mean,
or you just
overall body and fitness. I mean, you got to have. I mean, if you look at, when I was younger, obviously, we had.
Yeah, old
I
man.
would finish the games, and then I would immediately start training for the Invitational, and then as soon as the Invitational was over, I would immediately start training for the Open for regionals for the games. Well, now not being an individual, I don't have to do I don't get to do, because I really enjoyed doing the Invitational. I don't get to do the Invitational anymore. So now it's like you can do a little bit more, and this is what Matt does, and Matt's done a really good job of it, and will probably pay off in the long run. In that Fraser, so I'm talking about, is he takes 2 or 3 months and has an actual off season, where a lot of us, I can't. I just don't feel right taking an off season. I never took an off season. It's starting to catch up with me, or has started to catch up with me over the years. And so last year was probably good to have a little bit of downtime, but I felt like I came back all right. And,
I never saw or witnessed thinking that you had to oh man, Rich needs to get, like, not once did that ever cross my mind. So I didn't know if you felt that way.
No, and I mean, I honestly, I would do a lot of stuff separate from what we were doing, just capacity building stuff, like rowing, biking.
You did do a lot of that,
skiing,
I guess.
that type of stuff.
It was it was a good opportunity for you to reset.
Yeah.
After that knee surgery, and you did a lot of little small muscle stuff, and we did a lot of 30-minute warm-up stuff.
Yeah, Active Life RX gave me a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of found a new realm with accessory, which I think has helped everybody tremendously, just with the other stuff that we've now added.
Granted, we've kind of laid off a little bit on warm-up and the accessory, but
should get back with that.
It's that time of year,
But Fraser did, it was when he first moved here, he was laughing. He's like, why are you guys doing intensity right now? I'm not doing anything. And we're like, are you? And you're like, is he? But no, he didn't really seem like he was doing
Yeah, so I mean, in the long run, it's probably going to pay off, and he probably won't get as burnt. I mean, after 5 years as an individual, I was burnt out. I'd had enough.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So would you literally go the day after the games and train again?
Most days, most years, I would do something that next day.
Yeah.
There's maybe a year or two where I took a day off, where we would go to the beach and play football or do something like that. But I just feel better when I move and work out. I mean, it's just who I am.
Yeah, some of that's not really about.
It's not about
volume or trying
training.
to be
It's just like
about it.
I've got to do something.
Yeah. Right. I don't think so. I've known you 4 years, and I don't know that you've ever, since I've known you, ever really taken a full day off. Maybe
the only days I have rest days are if I'm sick.
I was gonna say, you always get sick at the most inopportune times, and it's like if you're not a complainer, so it's like he doesn't go, you guys, I'm not feeling well. Literally, the last time I saw you sick, all of a sudden he lays on the ground, and I'm like, what are you doing down there? And he's like, it's nothing. And you're like, are you sick?
I felt awful.
Next thing you know, he's puking his guts out, and it's like he doesn't even just laying flat.
When we went to Texas, he was sick. He tries to go on this mountain bike ride sick.
I did go on that mountain bike ride. And
did you die?
Smashed me. The first 20 minutes, I was hammering. And then the last 20 minutes, I was batteries
and then
down.
We got back to the guy's house who was hosting us, and he was wrapped in a blanket on the floor.
Laying on the floor in his guy's house. This guy's
gosh.
Will from Amarillo.
Yeah.
It's awesome. He bought me a mountain bike, so I'm like,
that's awesome.
I got to go on. He's like, you don't have to go. And I'm like, dude, bought a mountain bike. I have to go on
Yeah.
a mountain bike ride.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. I'm glad we did, but
It was cool.
man,
His skin
I
was so white.
felt
It was like
Yours was?
terrible. I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah.
I honestly was like, okay, I'm gonna die out here. I'm dead.
Well, then everybody got sick because whatever
Yeah.
you had,
Yeah, I gave it to everybody.
everybody got it.
Because we were in a plane that was the size of this room,
Oh, that's super healthy.
and 4 of us.
Right.
Had the pukes. Did you guys
Woo.
ever? No, we shouldn't really share puke stories, but did we ever talk about the thing with your dad and the Folgers bucket? Remember when you?
Oh gosh. It was
I
after. It was
never
one of
heard
the. It
this
was a
before.
train with Rich. It was same thing. Like when I get hit hard, and I'm down for about 24 hours, and I'm good.
Jim, this
Well,
is
so
one of my favorites.
it was like train with Rich, and it was fine. Friday afternoon, Saturday morning we worked out, and then Sunday or Saturday about midday. It was about your talk when you do your talk.
Right.
I was like, man, I'm starting to feel bad. Like I don't feel good. So I lay down. Oh, every time I get sick, I just lay down. I'm like, because that's the only place that feels good. And so I'm like, here we go. And sure enough, I thought it was something I ate, whatever. So we get home, and it was Alabama, Florida State were playing college football. There was like 5 or 6 people at the house. You know, there's people in town. Everybody wants to hang out. So everybody's in the living room, like our like den area where the kitchen is. And I go in the other room. I take a hot shower. I just lay on the floor in the shower. That's what I do too. Is when I'm sick, 'cause I just lay in the shower.
Oh, I do that.
And so I'm just laying on the couch after that and watching the game. Well, I could just go to bed. I was like, I can't keep my eyes open. It's like 8 o'clock at night. And so I text Hillary. I'm like, hey, because I'm going back and forth between laying on the floor in the bathroom, I hadn't really thrown up yet, and laying in the bed. So I'm like, I text Hillary. I'm like, hey, can you bring me a bucket? And Dad walks in with this tiny Folgers can, like this big, and he's like, hey, I got you a
Brings him a coffee can.
I was like, he's like, I got you a bucket. I was like, that ain't gonna work, bro. And he's like, okay. Brings back this huge bucket. As soon as he sets it down, I puke my guts out. It was awful.
Thank
but I'm
goodness.
also the type that like, if my stomach's starting to hurt, because you like goes in waves where it's
Yeah.
like, I don't
it's
feel good.
terrible.
Oh, I feel all right.
The waves
oh,
are
I don't
so
feel
painful.
Good. And so when
Oh.
I get the waves, I just fingers down the throat, make myself throw up.
Just get it
Get it
done.
over with.
Didn't Ted puke yesterday?
Ted puked yesterday
Puke
working
and
out.
rally.
He puked and rallied real good, real
Yeah,
strong.
it was solid.
Right
It
on.
was really gross. I didn't actually see it, so when I saw the video, I'm like, oh, that's a real puke. That's gross.
Oh,
Cool.
Yeah, we
Wow.
were doing we do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 legless rope climbs with 30, 25, 20, 15, 10 GHDs, and so you're just
That's
kind of like
terrible.
bound up the whole time, like
Oh, yeah.
your core's shot, and
Still somehow out of breath.
both
yeah.
of us finish, and I'm like, man, I don't feel great. Ted goes, yeah, I don't either. I was like, yeah, I feel like throwing up. He goes,
He's just
me too.
beeline.
Walks outside, just pukes. I was like,
And Hewitt pops up with his camera, and he's like, oh, perfect.
yeah, perfect video opportunity.
You
was-
just gave him an excuse to let it go.
But it was
Yeah.
funny. It was literally no second. Like, you're like,
I was like,
feel
man,
like I
kind
could
of.
throw up.
Yeah, I've
Ted's
never
like,
and I've never
"Good
thrown
idea."
up working out, but I was just sometimes you get that feeling. You're like,
Right.
man, I just don't
That
feel
workout
good.
really did. I don't know why.
I don't either, because it wasn't. I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't like we've done
We've
harder.
done a lot worse things.
Interesting.
So, back to the Iron Cowboy.
The
I know.
Iron
Wow.
Cowboy.
Get back on
Big
the
circle.
Oh, there's another thing. Gosh, there's
Go
so
on.
many Iron Cowboy things. Keep
Go
it.
on.
Don't. It's not done. There's an Iron Cowboy thought for you, and there's an Iron Cowboy thought for you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
One for you and one for you.
You get an Iron Cowboy thought, and you get an Iron Cowboy thought.
Because this made me think of you. But
Keep going.
sorry.
Stay with
Focus.
it.
He was saying that.
If you ever pooped his pants, it'd make you think of James. Sorry, James.
Hey,
ahead, sorry.
James.
Hobart?
Yeah.
He probably doesn't listen.
He poops his pants. He
Oh.
did one time,
Did
like
one
for
time.
real, in their car.
He
which
farted,
I'm
and it wasn't a fart.
I'm sure
In
he's.
white compression shorts.
I'm sure he's really happy we're
no.
sharing this too.
He shared it, I think.
Oh, okay.
I
That's
hope.
good. I mean,
Or
he's pretty
whatever.
open about those things.
Yeah, he didn't care.
So the Iron Cowboy was saying like they were talking about things that you. It was like 3 things that you would tell people to like pass on whatever at the end of your life, and he goes, I would tell people to be silly, and he's like, and I'm more introverted. I'm not like a super silly person. I like to be silly now and then, whatever. And he goes, but the hardest thing for me is when you're the Iron Cowboy and you show up to speak at events, you're expected to show up as the Iron Cowboy.
Right.
And I was like, that's fair. And it's like, you're like Batman. I always liken you to Batman. Like, you're a fitness champion, and when you're on the competition floor, your eyes, you could literally look at someone and they die, So it's like, you feel like you have to be serious when you
could literally look at someone and they
He's
die.
dead.
Yeah, and I'm not a very serious person. That's what you're saying. Is that where you're going with?
Yeah, it's like you have like a really silly side
Yeah,
to you, and
right.
like you're constantly joking. But and when you go to events though, you show up super serious and you have
Yeah.
these serious talks.
Yeah, I think it's just something that you either grow into or learn that
Yeah.
it's almost, you don't want to say it's like a separate you become a separate person, but you almost have to put on kind of a different face. Because I'm not a super outgoing person. I like my crew and.
You're ridiculous with your crew.
Right.
He's ridiculous.
But what I'm saying is like I don't like crowds. I don't like being in front of people. I don't like being the center of attention. But luckily, that kind of grew as I competed. It wasn't something that I was just like, oh,
right,
here you go. So that helped a little bit because it's taken time to get kind of comfortable with it. We've talked about it before. It's like, I mean, in college, that was the class I hated the most was public speaking.
Right.
Hated it.
Love public speaking.
Hated it.
Of
You
course
just get up there with like a
that.
piece of paper and you're like, my name is
Oh my gosh.
Rich. You're shaking, but I'm used to it now. So it is what it is. I still am. I don't like to get up and talk about myself or about anything that I've used in my, my career, but I like getting up and interacting with the crowd, like asking questions and interacting and doing that type of stuff. I don't mind that at all now.
It's kind cool that it was organic.
Free flow.
Yeah. It's at least it wasn't like you had to like at Advocare events you go up at like 40,000 people now, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, could you like I don't care how much you love public speaking. 40,000 people, when you haven't been in front of a lot of people, you're probably pulling a James and crapping your pants a little bit. Like,
it's tough.
I mean,
I don't like to talk about things in front of people that aren't things I'm really into.
Passionate.
Like if you were to say, hey, I want you to talk about this, and it's something I'm not passionate about, it'd be horrible for me.
Right.
I'd be really super nervous and not want to do that. And things that I'm, believe in and I'm excited about, I can do.
You're great in front of crowds.
It wasn't always that way. I mean,
something you have to develop.
Like the first time I got up in front of a crowd and tried to talk about what I talk about now, it was horrible. I have not been able to even watch the video. I have the video. A friend of mine it was high school, maybe 400 kids. A friend of mine came along and videoed it. And I said at the end, I was horrible. I thought I knew what I wanted to say, and I just kind of stood there.
It's the worst, too, when you start talking, you're like, do they care about this? And then you're like, then you're done. Like somebody's off and kind of looking at you, and you're like looking at that person, and you're like, no.
No. Oh.
And I asked him, how did I do? And he's like, dude, you were horrible. And then we went to a Mexican restaurant and had a beer and tried to reorganize.
Wow.
And that's a long time ago, but man.
Learn from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it too is, 2 points. I heard someone say the other day, if you're speaking in front of a crowd and you always have that person who's like totally not paying attention and staring down, the guy was like, always remember who you're doing it for. You're not doing it for that person. You're doing it for the rest of the population that you're sharing whatever you're trying to share for.
Yeah.
But it's public speaking and stuff is so much like it's learned. It's exactly what you guys are saying. It's just like going on the competition floor. When you feel nerves, you're going to feel nerves public speaking. It's how you use them. But like, for instance, I grew up like in a small Catholic school and part of our thing twice a week. So we went to like a prayer service and then we went to church. And the more involved you were with things, the more theme parks you got to go to at the end of the year. So we were like, let's be part of everything.
They bribed you.
So the very first things that I learned to do was I do enjoy reading, lecturing in church. I've always loved that. And choir. So since the time I was this big, I literally remember in like the second and third grade stumbling up there with your little high voice going, the word of the Lord, and like reading in front of a congregation or getting up there and singing in front of the whole church. And I'll never live it down. My brother's like, you're terrible. And I was like, am I? But like, that just stays with you. You get up there, you're in front of everybody. And now it's like, same like, you're in front of people. You're giving the thoughts and the, mindset stuff to people. And it's not,
Oh, man, I used to hate that in school. Like, if you, we did popcorn reading where you'd read and then you'd say somebody's name and they had to pick up where you left off.
Oh, wow.
Reading out loud.
And reading out loud. And you immediately forgot how to read. You're like, he. It was, I hated it. And you just start stumbling over every word and you're just like, popcorn Jim.
Yeah.
I suck.
And you can't help but sweat. Like literally,
it's the worst.
No matter
I
how
sweat
old you are,
anyway, so it's just immediately nerves.
Did you sweat when you were in the third grade and stuff too?
Yeah,
or no?
I've just been a sweaty mess my whole life.
Oh, that's okay. You have a good cooling system.
No, I don't know.
Can I go on to the cowboy? What is his name?
Iron Cowboy?
Iron Cowboy thought for you today.
Yes.
The part of his talk that made me think of
What
you
was my
today.
part?
You're like Batman.
Oh,
And
you have
do
to
you
be a
ever get
different
tired
person.
of being
Gotcha.
Batman when you're actually really silly?
I'm Batman.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
See? Comes out. Okay, so he was talking about how, and this is absurd, he was like...
But not Christian Bale Batman, not
Yeah.
Not
Oh, yeah,
Ben Affleck.
let's-
Batman.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's
just
out.
making sure. All right.
That should have never happened.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I just
Well, that was just
completely ruined that
accepted.
thought.
That's a travesty.
Blew that. Sorry.
No, we understood that, but I'm glad you clarified that. So he's talking about, they were like, the guy was asking him, do you get to this mindset of being able to do this over time, or did you know the question was to him, can someone be taught your mindset of being able to do something like that, or is that inherent? Did you grow up really mentally tough? And he said, the first time in my life I remember being mentally tough was, he said there was you win something if you ride this Ferris wheel for 10 hours. Or it was like 10 days. And you only had 2 10-minute breaks per day. They slept and stuff. It wasn't as gruesome as it sounds, but he was like, I'm doing it. I want to win whatever it is. And he got on this Ferris wheel, and you weren't allowed to read anything, bring anything. You're just sitting there like this for 10 hours. You get off to pee and eat. Anyway. So he was starting with that. And he said, the whole point, sorry, weird tangent. He said, you continually have to do things that make you uncomfortable to end up getting to the place where you're comfortable being uncomfortable. And what that reminded me of was the adversity challenges and things that you talk about. Like that immediately segues into, so why is that vital? Why is that important? That's the question for you.
Nothing purposeful, that has value that lasts.
It's easy.
Comes unless you do something difficult. So, and that's, you can win, you can have success, and you can do all those things in life, but that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about purposeful. And for us, winning and success is a byproduct of doing something that's purposeful. So for me, that's why that challenge is in the Mayhem Mindset stuff. And it's, man, if you actually want to have something that's lasting and purposeful, then it's got to be hard. And we just know that that's true. Look at life. And then ultimately, if you want to go all the way in, it's make a sacrifice for somebody else. So it's got to be hard, and you have to sacrifice if you want to get to purpose. I think for me in my life, I connected to doing things hard because I was so competitive.
Right.
It wasn't really about, I didn't understand being mentally tough. I didn't get that.
Right.
That's not how I approached that. I just freaking want to win, and I wanted to beat your ass. Yep.
Yeah.
And then when I went all in, I was all in, and I could be present just because I wanted to win.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really a thought process, and that's how I'm not experienced athletic success like you have, but I recognized that in you and saw that immediately. Like, oh wow, that's
what we talk about. Is when
Right.
people ask me at the Train with Riches, we do Q&As. Is how did you get like you are, and how could somebody get like that if they're not, and I mean, they don't want it. It's you can't teach that. Like it's got to be something inside of you. I feel like, and something you were born with. I hated losing, and so I think that always goes back to what we've talked about.
That is for sure how
hard for me to explain because I don't get it. I don't get not having that.
The fun has been for me is that you are now in this space where you're open to trying to figure out what that was, and putting it into language so that other people could kind of understand it and learn from it. Now, where I mean, even that's annoying to even have a discussion about when you're in that competitive mode, because you can't really stop talking to me, man. I can't really explain that to you. Let's just go.
Yeah.
Like shut up and let's go. And that's valuable, and that's kind of how I got there. And later in life, it was the things that I wasn't necessarily really good at that caused me to have to start to analyze, well, how do I bring that competitiveness to it, and then kind of break it down a little bit, figure out, well, here's the spiritual things I think I want to bring to that. Here are the mental things. Here's what I'm doing in my emotions,
Well, and the question that he posed was, when you're backed into a corner, how do you respond? And his thought on it was, and let me know what you guys think about this, was he says everyone has an alter ego. He's like, that's how I came up with the Iron Cowboy, is because when you're at that point, when it's fight or flight, or you're on that bike for 50 miles, or you're at the end of whatever you're doing, or you're fighting for your family, whatever it is, you kind of have to have that alter ego who just shuts down and fights or does whatever, has to be done. And he's like, and it goes back to, if you're backed into a corner, how do you respond?
I think so for me, that I don't like that word. In the Mayhem Mindset word, I like the word react. And we talk about the difference between being ready and prepared. Everybody's ready. Dudes are always ready. but have you really done the work? Are you really prepared in all those avenues of life, you know? And then I don't want to respond to something. I want to react.
What can you clarify that?
Well, just reaction means it comes out of the middle of who I am in that moment. Boom, I'm there. What I have done, who I am, what I believe. That's that grace versus truth thing. Sometimes that reaction is grace with the person, and sometimes honestly, you got to step on their neck and you know, and finish the deal, you know, and I want to be that kind of a guy. That's why this idea of understanding your values is paramount to me, because it puts me in a position where I'm going to react based on who I am and what I believe. I'm not searching for a response. I've already got that.
Gotcha.
Because I know what my purpose is. I know who I am. I know what those core values are. And so I'm setting myself up in a position in life. And it was like the dumbbell, the D-ball cleans today.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm videotaping you and watching you adapt to 200 pounds and then videotaping everybody else. And there was one little movement you had in the middle of that made that whole thing easy.
Right.
It wasn't something you calculated.
Right.
It was a reaction that you had.
Right. Just innate.
Yeah, just innate. And it came from all those power cleans, and then you adapted to that in that moment. I think that's what we're striving for in life, in sports.
I just want to know where you got the videotape from.
What videotape? Oh. Well, I'm missing it. What am I missing?
You said I videotaped you.
Like, think camcorder with the VHS
Oh,
tape.
that's old school.
I videotaped you.
What would you call it?
Recorded?
You
I recorded
videoed.
you.
Yeah.
Videoed.
Record.
Sorry. Oh, back in the day, that's where I came from.
I know, but somebody who did that the other day, and I
we
made
were
fun
at
of them.
dinner somewhere.
And they're like, I videotaped. I'm like, you didn't
Yeah, you
videotape
didn't.
Oh, it
anything.
was Jordan.
Oh,
Was
my
it Jordan?
God.
At dinner that one. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Sorry, I
was-
completely
We could
ruined the
see
thought
Silver
there.
in the corner with the videotape on his shoulder.
Pushing the button.
I come from that.
Video. Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
I do too.
I say that all the time too.
Yeah, I just thought.
I think it's
but
pretty
yes.
funny.
It was funny. Sorry.
Good call.
I was actually helping Dre today.
Yeah.
And he was setting up some studio stuff for tomorrow. And I was cracking up because my degree in 1992 was in
videotaping.
Yeah,
Broadcasting.
We had big cameras. It went
Lights,
to tape.
camera, action.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Like, yeah.
And now it's all.
I know.
We actually got to use the
Clapper?
thing.
You got
to
the
use
first
a
time
clapper?
ever when we did the video shoot for the Froning apparel and shoes.
Oh, cool.
Does he have a clapper?
Who?
Dre?
Not Dre. Dre didn't do it. Reebok. When I was working with Reebok.
Can
they
we
had the
get a clapper? That sounds so fun.
No.
Don't lose a finger.
You won't lose a finger. The thing is wood
Yeah.
and chalk.
Okay, can I put your fingers in it and hit it as hard as I can?
Absolutely not. But you're not going to lose a finger like that.
Yes, you can. Pops right off. Anyway, in other news.
So I wanted to finish this because it was important.
Sorry, Jim.
It was super important.
Good job, videotape.
And you are a prime example. In CrossFit, you are not responding. You are reacting in the language that I like because you're prepared. You're trained. And so you're not really thinking about those things in that moment. You're not.
Right.
You're competing. You're
Trying to find
being
the
who
easiest
you
way
were
to
created
do
to
it,
be. Yeah. And maybe later you go and look at it,
Right.
you know, and kind of tactically and we need to be that same person in life.
Right.
In the Mayhem Mindset game.
Right.
We want to be able to react to whatever such life gives us from who we were designed to be and what our values are.
Well, and that also, as hard as it is to admit sometimes, how athletic you are, though, too. Like, and this is something like you always say, like, tell kids to play sports and do other things, because a lot of how you respond to things, and in CrossFit, you're never going to know. And your athleticism comes out all the time. Like, that is pure, like, how are you adjusting your body? How are you doing this? And that's not something that comes if you're not playing other sports or doing things or
as many
having,
different
you know,
things as you can do.
hand-eye
Get
coordination,
outside.
like explosiveness, like
Body's awareness of parts in space.
Yeah.
everything you just did with
Kinesthetic
that is
awareness.
like, you know? Anyway, can I continue on my Iron Cowboy thoughts?
And yes, you can, but the point is, let's be that as people too.
Right.
Right.
Let's have that kind of
Experienced.
awareness
Right.
about who we are and what we believe,
So we can make our reactions
we
or respond after that.
we can react based on who we are and what we believe. And if you're not defined, and if there's no language and you haven't practiced at it, how do you do that? You search for a response. I don't know. Let me see how I feel.
Yeah.
Instead of this is who I am, this is what I believe. People ask me sometimes, how do you know what to do all the time? I only know what to do because I know who I am, or in our game, who I be. And you have worked so hard at this CrossFit over time that your body, it reacts.
Makes it happen.
It makes it happen. And that is innately inside of you too, to be a competitor.
Right.
You know, and sometimes that's not the same for all of us. And so some of the people, it's not bad that they ask you
not
how
at all.
you get
That's
there.
not what I'm saying. This is hard for me to put it into words because it's just who I am.
And
I never had to think about it too for a really long time.
Right. And I think I think you can work on a mindset that puts you in a position to be successful at that, for sure. I don't know that you're necessarily going to compete for a podium spot at the CrossFit Games.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but being 100% of who you were created to be, you can work on that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree for
I'm
sure.
sorry. Back to the iron.
No. It's all stuff that just completely relates and is intertwined to exactly what you're saying. So it was like, we're talking about like ways to be uncomfortable. And he was saying, the guy was asking him, well, how do you find those ways? And he goes, well, what I did was I wrote down my 10 biggest fears. And I was like, and this is the thing like I wanted to ask you guys about, because that seems so, like, my biggest fears are not anything to do with like, hey, I can go out in public. Like, I get people, some people are afraid of like public speaking, and you could go out and tackle that. Or if you're afraid of being silly, you can go dance in the street every now and then, like stuff like that. But like, I feel like a lot of people's biggest fears are more innate about losing family or love. Like, can you really write down 10 fears and like, how does that work?
Rattlesnakes and sharks.
Yeah.
I never heard rattlesnakes, and we had one this morning.
You know what? I mean, you want to be around a rattlesnake or a copperhead? Any poisonous snake? No.
No. Sharks, I don't mind.
So when you asked that question initially, and I kind of rabbit trailed there, but so in the mayhem mindset, one of the challenges, we call it the adversity challenge. And so it's not necessarily fear, but it's adversity.
Right.
So what can you do if we believe that that progress and purpose comes through adversity?
What can you do to create some?
What can you do to create some?
Right.
And we say there are 3 kinds of adversity, or dragons. I'm going to call them dragons. I like that. There's stupidity on our own part. There's adversity that falls hard on us that's not our fault, maybe like a divorce, and you deal with that from your parents being divorced. And then we're talking about this kind that's constructive. What can I do today that will help me grow, that will cause me to have to do something difficult to get outside my comfort zone? Everything I want is at least one
Do
step.
one Iron Man.
Yeah, right? Like,
Not 50.
Gosh, the preparation alone is like, you're like not seeing your family for a while.
50 days.
How do you eliminate a little bit of chaos? How do you bring a little more order to your life? How do you, what
you talked about.
Yeah,
Making your bed.
something small. Yeah, back to the details.
Start out.
We were filling up Lakeland's pool the other day. You were filling it up, and it hit me. I was thinking about, okay, I was trying to find some adversity, something that I could do in my life, and I do something once a month, whether it's take a cold shower, there's a million things. Spend time with somebody that you normally wouldn't spend some time with, that you don't give enough time to because they annoy you. I mean, any kind of thing to set yourself up, to where you got to be present, you got to focus. And I was looking for, okay, what's one little thing I can do to fix a problem or some chaos in my life? And I got this freaking garden hose that sits outside of my front door.
Yeah.
And I hate that garden hose. I literally do. And it's some silly little minutia that really bothers me because it gets kinked up. And I got these 2 silly little goofy dogs that go out the front door and pee on my patio. And it smells like piss. And my wife's like, she hates it and she's frustrated. So every day, I can't make those little dogs. I can't.
Yeah.
I've sprayed them. I've chased them. I can't make them go over into the yard.
I got one of those.
So I just try to hose it down, right?
Yeah.
But then I got to deal with this hose that messes me up, and then I hate it, and then I'm mad, and I throw it over in the corner sometimes and just go on. And I saw Rich's hose, and he has one of these really cool no kink hoses.
No kink hoses.
I don't know. It's like
It doesn't kink?
amazing.
Yet. You can. I mean, if you want to kink it, you can kink it, but it immediately unkinks itself.
So I went to Walmart, bought a $30 hose.
Been great.
Problem
And
solved.
now your life
I
is
pick that thing up, spray down the dog whiz.
new pep in your step each morning as you're spraying the piss off.
Right. So I'm telling a
The little
silly
things.
story.
Pissed you off.
Yeah. Oh, good. I like what you did there. I like that. So it's a goofy story, but it took chaos,
Right.
brought some order to it,
Yeah.
eliminated some adversity,
Now you got a better hose.
So
That is
yeah,
good.
I think you got to do that. What are you going to do? Like we have to put some adversity in our life.
Well, this guy thinks that everyone should hit rock bottom to really find the best version of themselves. And the guy asked a great question after. He goes, so you want your kids to hit rock bottom? And without missing a beat, he goes, to love them at the highest level is to allow them to suffer. And I was like, whoa, he has thought about this. You know?
I agree to that to some degree. I mean,
I wouldn't say rock
what
bottom.
you've come up with, though, is you hit rock bottom and you figured all that out.
Yeah,
but
sure.
you've
true.
come up with a way to figure that out without hitting rock bottom and being prepared for that. So
That's right.
Good call. That's
so I don't
pretty
really
incredible.
agree necessarily with that. I'd rather not. I mean, I want my kids to learn, but I don't want them to suffer. Like,
Right.
there's going to be some things that are going to be uncomfortable and adversity and stuff like that. Yes,
Right.
but I don't want my kids to suffer. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
That guy just hasn't read Mayhem Mindset yet. He
Yeah.
just doesn't know.
Like, I understand that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get
I
it.
understand that. And some people, like, there are some adults that you really know, you get around them and you're like, wow, the only way they're going to sort that out, literally, is to hit rock bottom, possibly die, physically die, and or get it sorted out. And there ain't nothing we can do for them.
Yeah.
You know? And that's a fact. Then that happens. And I've been around people who were, man, I ain't nothing I can do for you. They're not paying attention.
Right.
They don't care. They don't want to learn. And then you kind of hope for them the fastest track to them to get to that space where they're willing to throw their hands up and say, man, I don't know, because that was my life.
Yeah.
I was at rock bottom.
But we say this all the time, though. Like, where we all are as individuals and in our lives is because of the hard stuff we've been through. So you have, like, you don't want your kids to suffer, but they have to face hard things to ever. What's the thing you always say? Like, I'm not really interested in communicating with someone that's never gone through anything hard because we don't have anything in common.
Scars. People
You know,
with scars.
and it's
What you said, I think, is so true. I didn't want my children to make the big time mistakes I did that really have cost me years.
right.
Marrying the wrong person. You know, I mean, I've got major regrets in some of those departments. I wanted them to learn, but I also understood they needed to make mistakes to get it.
Yeah.
You
And
can't
so-
be there and shelter them all
Right.
the time, but
I for sure calculated some of that with my kids too.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that wasn't going to turn out right, but it's not going to
Yeah.
destroy her.
There's
Right.
probably
You
a
know?
difference between learning from something and truly suffering deeply at, you know, that's kind of,
We've kind of talked about it. Brittany,
Yeah.
I was just trying to keep her from destroying herself.
yeah.
And with Taylor, I was like actively rooting for her to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Because she just didn't make them very often. And I wanted her to have some life lessons before the consequences were big and the things she was doing really mattered and counted.
right.
So some of that, you got to let them fall down. You got to let them.
Yeah.
And life's like a river. You heard me give that analogy. We want to get in the water with our kid, and we're connected to them. We're tethered to them, and if the rapid is big and they're going to drown, pull them in. Maybe the next rapid's not so big, and we let their face get wet and they're out of breath, and
Right.
I kind of had that analogy in my mind.
Yeah.
Until the day comes that you cut them loose and
yeah.
they're swimming on their own.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally went through this last week with Lakeland, teaching her how to swim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you hold her a little bit, let her fall,
Yeah.
and
Right.
then eventually you're like, all right, let's
was
do
so
this. I'm
good.
going to be 2 feet away from you. And then it's, hey, I'm going to back up another feet and
Yeah.
a couple feet.
Yeah.
Then by the end of it, she's telling me to back up.
She's
Like, I want to go
"See ya."
farther.
Right.
And so,
She was so good.
One day we were in the gym a year ago, and it was shortly after I had my knee surgery stuff, and he's power cleaning, and I'm across from him, and I'm looking at the bar, and it was maybe 185, maybe
I think you were 225.
225, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the bar.
Had you had surgery yet? I don't think you'd had surgery yet.
Maybe not. Maybe it was just because
I think
was
you were
hit.
just
okay. But I'm completely lost looking at that bar, going like, I know for sure I can power clean that.
I think you missed one too, because you were like, you kind of did it, but didn't
Yeah.
fully commit.
But I'm concerned about my knee, and I'm just
Yeah.
kind of worried, and not, I'm totally engrossed and fully present in what I'm doing. I'm not paying attention to anybody else, but I'm not sure whether I want to be doing that or not.
Yeah.
And he just hollered. He just hollered across the gym, and it was extremely challenging what he said to me, but he was right.
Yeah.
He obviously knew I could do that weight.
I was
That wasn't
watching
something.
him just sit there, kind of like
Yeah.
pull it and kind of like, and I
not
was just
really.
like, come on.
Yeah.
And I said a few words.
Yeah. It is
Challenged his manhood a little bit.
It was how dudes at that
But,
level would
yeah,
do that,
we'd
and it's
have that.
exactly what I
Yeah.
needed. And I grabbed it and picked it up
Picked
and
it
did
right
it.
up, no problem. Like it was a toothpick. And I was like,
Oh, there you go.
Told
You're
ya.
welcome.
No, he knew I could power clean that. He already
Right.
knew I could.
Yes.
And he knew that the injury that I had wasn't something that was going to bust me or break me.
It was safe. It was about you just doing it.
I just needed to get my mind into that space where I was going to pick it up, and it was more about just facing adversity in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there are all kinds of examples where people who love us and care about us step up, challenge us, help us, whether it be a father and your children, a mother and your children, or in the gym like that. Adversity is important.
Yeah.
We have to have that stuff. Have to.
Where do you guys have your clearest thoughts?
What we got time-wise?
Let's see what we got going on here. 50 minutes.
All right. A couple more. Clearest spot.
So since we're on the Iron Cowboy topic, he was just talking about like if you're on a bike for 5 hours, it's like similar to meditation. We've kind of touched on this before. So like where do you actually have your best ideas or your clearest thoughts, whether they be like introspective or it could be anything? Or do you not think?
I don't feel it. Right now, I don't feel like I have much time to think with 3 kids. I mean, it's tough. Shoot, laying in bed at night, or that's when usually my best thoughts come to me, is when I'm laying in bed thinking, before I fall asleep. But now I'm just literally, as soon as I close my eyes, I fall asleep. 'Cause I'm
I've said it before.
Dumping your bucket.
Shooting that bow. Just in kind of a rhythmic, quiet place with no, I don't have any sort of input going on, and my mind can be lost in the task.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to think about the task. The greatest things that ever happened to me were painting. I told my dad I'd never paint another bleeping thing when I left to go to college to be a football player. Mm-hmm. And then after the divorce and all the stuff, I had to quit my sales job and all the stuff. The only thing I knew I could do was to paint. Yeah. And I hated painting. Mm-hmm. But the crazy thing was that, like commercial painting, got a gun, a big pole gun, you're in here spraying walls. Going in there, that paint's flying everywhere, and you got 2 hours that's just monotonous of just spraying. And I got my relationship with God back. All the things that I began to try to think about as far as mindset stuff and how I wanted to, writing my code and all that happened while I was painting walls in a house. Monotonous
painting.
Yeah.
Kind of that space where you're completely sealed off from the rest of the world and nobody's bothering you, and you can be lost in your mind and fully present.
That's what I love about endurance sports. That's why I like biking long or running. Like often on Sundays when I'm on my little nice longer run, I'll have my phone on I'll have my ID, and then I'm like, oh no. Because over and over I've said, oh, I'll remember that later. And then I'm like, what in the world? So now I put it on whatever and I say my thought, and then I keep, because that's where I usually get like my ideas or things for the week and stuff like that. But he also like posed an interesting question about like when you're being introspective. Are your conversations more about forgiveness or your future? Are you talking to yourself about like, your past? Are you beating yourself up about those things? Are you working on forgiving yourself? Are you thinking about ideas for your future, what your future is going to look like and things like that? And I thought that was a really interesting question. And I haven't thought about it enough to know the answer.
Yeah,
but
my answer would be yes.
Future.
Yes.
I mean, I think mine's more future than the past. Obviously you're going to have some past thoughts.
Yeah.
But I don't get hung up on. I think that's one of your first challenges is your story. If you can't get past your story, you're always living in that story or what you feel like defined you as a person.
One of the other really unique things about your life is that you are very present all the time, and your life kind of demands that you be. I mean, you're going a million miles an hour and doing a lot of things at this point, but you really kind of live in the present. Right. That is kind of where you're at, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Try to.
You're not spending a lot of time. One of the, by far, in the top 3 or 4 days of my life was here in the barn. It was in the fall last year, and it was the 3 of us, and we had machines.
Oh yeah, I was going out of town, so we just had an early workout. We just rode
for an hour,
skied.
Nobody talked.
Oh my gosh, we had the best playlist.
There was like just some soft music, and you want to talk about like I was completely present, hearing my heart, hearing my head, thinking. I kind of forgot that you guys were there, other than the 2-minute change.
Yeah,
and then it was profound. It was spiritual. It was an amazing day.
Right.
And so we get to have some of that. Yeah. Because of what happens here. There's some of those moments where in the middle of that space, man, like doing the hard work, you just you're there, you're in that space, and that's analogous to me to almost painting sometimes. That same kind of
most of the time you can't be thinking about whatever. You have to be present and in that moment and thinking about
Yeah. Well, it's so funny you say that, because I literally was this week. I was like just writing in the morning, and I was like, what makes you happy?
Yeah.
I wrote that, and that was the very first thing I wrote down, was like that exact same memory. I don't know what it was about it. It was just really just a big one.
That was a huge day. That was a huge day.
Well, anyway, I think that's a good way to...
Yeah.
Lakeland, would you like to
say
hello and
say hello?
wrap this up for us?
Nope, Lakeland's not in a good mood.
You got a sweet stuffed animal there, though.
A little pink puppy or something. I don't know what that is.
Matches the outfit.
All right, well, that's it.
That's it.
That's all we got today. Leave us some feedback on iTunes, YouTube, I guess. Leave us some feedback. Be on the lookout for the new CrossFit Mayhem website when it comes out. We're working on it.
It's awesome.
You can close it. No, it's good. We're filming some Mayhem Mindset stuff.
Mindset stuff is happening tomorrow. We're on track.
Hoping August. That's our goal right now. Everybody keeps asking. We're going to rebrand some stuff with our online programming, so be on the lookout for that. You want to talk? Lakeland wants to talk. What do you want to say? Say hello. Say hello. All right. Oh.
Okay. Oh, she's getting ready to say something. Here we go.
You say something?
No, I shall.
All right, we're done.
Peace.